What's the number one thing that you guys are struggling or biggest challenge that you guys are facing right now?
In our firm, there's this balance that just keeps coming up as a challenge time and time again. When's the right time to hire in relationship to the funnel? I've been doing this 8.5 years now. It seems like there's always a new curveball, a new variable, a new twist on the equation.
What's the number one thing that you guys are struggling or biggest challenge that you guys are facing right now?
In our firm right now, the big hairy thing in the room, there's two of them. One, just like a lot of us, it's the lead flow required to hit the ambitious goals that we have. And again, that's solvable with the right amount of activity. Number two is there's this balance that just keeps coming up as a challenge time and time again with when's the right time to hire in relationship to the funnel. I've been doing this 8.5 years now, and it seems like there's always a new curveball, a new variable, a new twist on the equation that a lot of times it feels like we're answering the same question for the first time, but it's not the same. It's the same, but this time it's a little bit different for various reasons. And I think kind of the answer I always come back to is there's never going to be the perfect time. There's never going to be this if then on a spreadsheet where if the cell's green, then it means it's the optimal time to hire. And so you just got to go. Like as a CEO, you've got to trust that gut instinct of like, now is the time to hire. The cool part about it is if you hire too soon, it lights this fire under your ass to get the activity on the business development side ramped up, because you don't want to have to pay out of pocket for that salary that's, that burden salary that, they're only handling X client dollars and you're paying Y dollars, which Y is greater than X, so it really does encourage you to do that. The other piece that we're tackling with that is how do we reduce the onboarding time for our fractional CFOs? What can we do to take that from let's call it a 60-day process to a 45-day to a 30-day process? And one of the things that I'm trying mindset wise to work around with that is I try to swallow the whole elephant at the same time. I want to get it from a 60-day process to a 30-day process. And what I'm trying to check myself on right now is, okay, it doesn't have to go from 60 to 30 in one swing of the bat. Let's get it from 60 to 50 to 45 to 35 to 30. And that might be over the rest of this year that we get it, one increment or the next increment, and just trying to be patient with that process. But what I do sometimes is I'm like, well, if I can't get it from 60 to 30 with this one project, screw it. It's not working. We got to do something else.
Sure.
It's something I was journaling on this weekend actually is be okay with it. Improve 1% incrementally, and over time, that 1% every single at bat or every single day is going to pay dividends. But it's the lead flow to hit the goals that we have, and then balancing hiring the next fractional CFO against that lead flow and trying to get the timing right.
Scaling a fractional CFO firm is hard work, especially when you think about all the different tech platforms that are out there that claim to make your life easier. Most of them end up not working as promised, and you spend more time on them than they're worth. After running my own fractional CFO firm for the past 8 years, I have found one platform that has been consistently delivering for us for years and years, and that is Giacon. Giacon is one of those platforms that works quietly in the background, day in and day out. In fact, Giacon saves my firm well over 40 hours a month every single month. But how does it do that? Well, Giacon is a data connector that links accounting platforms like QuickBooks Online, Sage, FreshBooks, and Xero to Google Sheets. This data connector allows you to fully automate your custom reporting, consolidate reports, and even get live currency exchange rates. Best of all, it eliminates the manual work like repetitively copying and pasting data. The kind of work that nobody really wants to do but super prone to errors? Yes, Giacon does all of that for you automatically anytime you need it. If you want to scale your firm without adding a ton of additional technology or labor expenses, you need to check out Giacon. Get 30% off Giacon for the first 3 months by clicking the link in the description below and start saving time and money with Giacon today.
Yeah. Do you guys have any sort of numbers? Or where's your gut on that? Right? Like, is it, hey, when we've got 10 clients per and we feel this other person that we've just onboarded is now at like 5, 6. Now we feel like we need to start doing it? Or what does that threshold look like for you?
It's actually sooner than you think.
Always.
I believe. And again, I've got 8.5 years of experience doing this now, where I think that when the engine is running optimally, both on the marketing and the lead flow side and the onboarding side, I think it's when a new CFO has his third client, it's time to start the hiring process again. For our firm and our scope of work and kind of the way we do things, a fractional CFO should be able to handle 10 to 12 clients on average. And I believe the kind of the way I see it all flowing is given a dialed in lead flow, a CFO has his third client, and let's assume that a CFO can onboard 2, maybe 3 new clients at once. And 3 is a big ask for a new CFO. That's a tall order. So let's call it 2. So by the time they're at their third, then that means that we need to start posting on LinkedIn, hey, we're hiring. And just knowing how long our interview process takes and background checks and our onboarding process, by the time they're through that whole cycle of job post to the interviews to background check to onboarding to I'm ready to take on my first client, it's early. Like I said, I started this, it's earlier than you think. It's for us, I think it's around 3 clients. That's our trigger point to start hiring the next CFO.
Yeah, that feels significantly earlier than you would think. You'd want to feel like, oh no, I can actually fill that plate before I have to start hiring the next. But to your point, I think the environment that you put yourself in forces the output that you desire, right? And so that feels really uncomfortable. What action does that then drive you to do is powerful.
Right. The actions are limited, right? It's okay. Well, I either need to increase my lead flow or I need to reduce the onboarding time. It's very clear. There's only a couple things to optimize for there, but it forces you into one or both of those activities. And at the end of the day, like the result, if you don't execute well on one or both of those, is you're going to pay out of pocket to compensate somebody. But again, knowing what those couple of things are and just knowing where to go, which levers to pull makes all the difference. Now, what's the flip side of that? Well, if you wait too long, then it backs up your lead flow. It slows down your growth. Or what most of us, myself included, lack the discipline to slow down the lead flow. And so then we end up overburdening our team, which ends up in a couple of bad outcomes. You either have a bad new client onboarding process, or you overstress your team, and neither of those are a good thing. I'll add to that the client experience is further downgraded because you're going to onboard them with an existing CFO on your team, knowing that you're going to have to hand them off to a new CFO. So they've onboarded with one CFO at this point, and now you're going to have to hand them over and rushed onboarding probably with that CFO because they've got a full client roster already. And now the most time intensive process is new client onboarding. So they've got a full client roster and they're onboarding another client, and that client's going to end up being handed over to a brandy new CFO at some point in the next 30 or 60 days. The client loses there. So it's a lose-lose all the way around. So do it earlier than you think you need to do it.
Yeah, I agree. I just love the position that it puts you in, because then again, to what we have discussed in previous conversations, like I am a big proponent of intentionally putting yourself in a position that is vulnerable and forces you to be accountable so that you are able to realize the dreams that you have and that those come to fruition. But it starts with you putting yourself in uncomfortable positions first.